But why is it that a lot of humans and a lot of society and the community around us can get stuck in that story of this has happened to me, so this means that I'm this way forever?
Okay. So it's a really good question. Why do we get stuck in our stories, right? In my book, The Magic 100, I speak about, two people can grow up in exactly the same house. Yeah. You both saw exactly the same things that, the dad, in this case, let's just use the dad mistreating the mum and physical violence. One kid grows up, and when he gets his first girlfriends and stuff, he slaps them and treats them like shit and says, well, what else was I, how else was this going to turn out? This is the only model I was ever given, right? And the other one grows up and says, I'm never going to hit my missus. And that's not the game I'm playing, right? And he's vehemently against any form of violence against his partner. But they both grew up in the same house. They both started with the same model. They both had the exact same experience, the exact same examples. And the only real difference is the story that they tell themselves about something. Now that story, don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean it's not a painful story. It doesn't mean it like didn't gut you, right? It doesn't mean it hasn't affected you negatively. It doesn't mean any of those things. But it is a story because otherwise, how can we have the two different experiences from within the same house? It's something that they're telling each other, right? And people are often offended by that because they think by stories they think what I'm saying is you're making shit up and it's not. That's not what I mean. Although there is an element of that, we are making anything that happens to us. We kind of make up our own kind of timeline of events and our own set of meanings that accompany that. But what I really mean by story is a a rationale, a way that we give meaning to some things in our life that we currently don't have explanation for. I, you know, I'm the one who's grown up slapping my missus. My, I can't really understand it. I can't really break it down. I can't understand why I don't, why I can't control my temper, why I can't, be a certain way. So the story and the evidence that I gather is, yeah, but look what dad did and look what it was like and look how many times we saw that, right? So I gather that evidence and I internalize it and I drag that into my self-identity. And that's really what stories are, right? Our self-identity is an accumulation of stories that we tell ourselves to help us understand our place in the world and who we are. Yeah. Now I'm the other guy and I'm like, I've never hit my missus, and I have no intention of doing so. It's complete anathema to me. I'm like, my stories are that was disgusting. How can a person who claims to love someone else be doing that to them? That's wrong. That's right. They internalize that story, right? They are stories, and they're not anything that's embedded permanently. They're embedded to the degree that we repeat them, right? But once we start to challenge them, we say, "Is that really true?" That because I saw Dad do it. Yeah, at an early and impressionable age, I was predisposed to a way of behaving. I was made to believe certain things were acceptable or that were tolerable or any of these things because of that. But now, as a man, as a grown man, looking at my life, do I still believe the things that scared me into believing this as a child? And that comes to this now, right? So a lot of people haven't really grown themselves up, right? They haven't grown themselves up. They're living their young lives, but in their older bodies, right? And the only way you grow yourself up is to challenge and redefine. As brings us back to the first conversation, to challenge and redefine all of the stories that were used to grow you up to this point.
This reminds me of a previous episode, childish or childlike.
Right.
Go into
Yeah.
that just quickly again.
Yeah. So childish wasn't me. Everybody else's fault. Fuck everybody. Right. It's like don't point the finger at me. Temper tantrum, all that kind of stuff. Childlike, curious, playful. Right. Surrounded by wonder and awe and well, wow, damn, I didn't realize that about myself. I didn't. Right. Most people are struggling to move past their big challenges and dare I say it, traumas they're struggling because they stay in the childish place. And again, that's not a finger pointing like you got to grow yourself up, right? You don't got to grow yourself up. You can stay with it forever, and you can be the child who's a victim of other people or other circumstances for as long as you damn well see fit. You could say, I'm going to be one of these people that never do that work, that never grow myself up. But the payment for that is that you'll always have trauma owning a big chunk of your life, right? If you go the other way, it doesn't mean it. Now, I know all this stuff, and my PTSD still comes back to pay me fairly regular visits. The distinction is that the visits are more infrequent than they've ever been. When they happen, they're shorter than they've ever been. And the impact of them is far more negligible than it's ever been, right? So where a lot of people are, they have the trauma every day. It's hugely impactful, and it lasts for a long time. So out of those two things, what would most people want? They'd want okay, I may never, ever, ever be without these thoughts or these feelings because they're so deeply embedded that maybe I'm not going to be able to nudge them out of the way completely. But I tell you what, when they come, they're not going to come as frequent, they're not going to come as hard, and they won't last as long. And that only comes really from growing yourself up.